Good morning, Maths Boffins. Today we are learning about rounding up or rounding down.
I'm having a party. It's a tea party and we're going to have lovely cupcakes. Now, I have 37 people coming for this party, and in the packs of cupcakes you get, I think there's 20 cupcakes in a pack, and I've got 37 people coming. How many packs do I need to buy? Do I need to buy one pack of 20 or two packs of 20 so that I've got 40? 37 is such a difficult number. I wish I knew how to round up. Wait, I do know how to round up. Come and look in my maths book. The question is, how can we round 14 to the nearest 10? First of all, we need to count in tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, and so on. 14 would land between 10 and 20. If the number had been 24, it would have landed between 20 and 30. If the number had been 64, it would have landed between 60 and 70. But this number 14 lands between 10 and 20. Now, I want you to imagine that this ruler can actually make a hill like this, with the middle point being the 15 is the highest part of the road. So this is our hill with the highest point being 15. And it goes up the hill 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 being the highest point. And then it goes down 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. Now, if I had a little car, this is so cool, here's my car, and it were to drive up this hill and it ran out of petrol before reaching 15, which way would the car roll? Yes, it would roll backwards, back down to the 10. But if the car was going over and it ran out of petrol on any of these numbers on this side, at the 16, 17, 18 or 19, would it go backwards down to the 10 or would it go forwards back down to the 20? You're right, it would go down to the 20. Right, but we have to go to the number 14. And the number 14 doesn't reach the highest spot, which is 15, so it would definitely be rounded off by going back to number 10. Now, if your number were to land on the highest spot, which would be at 15, the car is facing forwards. So whenever it lands on the 15 or 25 or 35 or 45 or any number with the 5, you always go towards the higher number. If we were given the number 15 and we had to round it to the nearest 10, remember we count in tens. 10, 20, 30, 40, and so on. And we know that 15 comes between 10 and 20 on the ruler. Remember, the halfway mark is your number 15. If 15 were to be the place that your little car had to stop, it would keep driving to the 20. So 15 rounded off to the nearest 10 is 20. Now we know how to round off to the nearest 10. Let's see if we can round off to the nearest 100. What if our number was 540? Well, we'd count in hundreds, wouldn't we? 100, 200, 300, 400, 500, 600. 600 would be the bigger side and 500 would be the smaller side, because 540 comes between 500 and 600. Right. Now we work out where 540 would be. Here it is, over there. Remember that we said that if our little car was driving along the road, any number before 550, it would go back down the hill to 500. But any number greater than 550, it would go towards the 600. So because it's 540, it's on the opposite side of the hill, it's going to roll back down to the 500. Remember the hill that we learnt about? Let me just show you again. There's the hill. And the 5 is always in the middle, 550. And you can see quite easily now how the 540 would cause the car to roll back down to 500. Well done. Now we're getting into the harder ones. But I know you're so clever, you'll find this really easy. This is 4,152. And the question is asking us to round off to the nearest 100. So, there's the hundreds, okay? So what we're going to do is count in hundreds. So we'd go 4,000, 4,100, 4,200, 4,300, 4,400, and on. And we know that 4,152 would come here between 4,100 and 4,200. We've worked out that it will come between the 4,100 and the 4,200. And now we're just going to zoom in, and I'm going to put the number 4,100 and the number 4,200. And of course, our number is 4,152. And it's going to come somewhere in between those two. So now we were asked to round off to the nearest 100. So we only have to look at the hundreds column. 152 is either going to go towards 100 or 200, right? Now remember, we look at this number because it would go 110, 120, 130, 140, 150. Let me just draw that for you quickly over here. Between the 100 and the 200, remember our little hill? We would have gone 110, 120, 130, 140, 150, 160, 170, 180, 190, 200. And your halfway mark would have been 150. Any number going this side would go back to 100. Any number falling this side would go to 200. So our number is 152, which means it's probably falling over here, so it's going to go down to the 4,200. So to come back to our first question, rounding up 4,152 to the nearest 100. We underline the 100 and we look at the number next to it. If it's a 5, we know that this number is going to go up. Your answer is going to be 4,200. Now, if your number had been 4,175 and you had to round it off to the nearest 100, you don't even need to do all of this. All you do is you say, look at the 100 because it's asked for the nearest 100, the number next to it. If it is less than 5, it's going to go back down to 4,100. If it's greater than 5 or 5, it's going to go up to 200. So this number was greater than 5, so it's going to become 4,200. Just give it a go, and I'm sure you'll get it. Let's just recap. What if we were asked to round this number to the nearest 10? Then we look at what is in the tens column. It's a 3. We look at the number next to it. Is it bigger than 5 or is it smaller than 5? It's bigger than 5, which means that this number is going to bounce up So this will become 440. If the number had been 432 and we had to round to the nearest 10, we'd look at the 3. The number next to it is smaller than 5, so therefore it would remain the same.